Hey guys, this is the Diesel Queen. I have some exciting news for you. This March, when you buy a diesel decoder, you will get exclusive access to a question and answer panel with me personally. This is going to be limited to only the people that buy diesel decoders. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to talking to you guys. In addition, you will also be getting 6 months of completely free access to the diesel repair platform, which is called the Wikipedia of truck repair. And on top of that, you will also be getting a voucher to go to one of our top training classes in the United States. It's an in-person training class. This only lasts through March, and it's only available with the people that buy the Diesel Laptops decoder. Don't wait, sign up for it. If you've been waiting on buying it or waiting to figure out if you want it or not, March is the month to get it. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Overhauled with the Diesel Queen. Today I am here with Tony, who started out as a mechanic and he has worked his way up into the management side of the business. So Tony, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, give us a little bit of background.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Tony. I am been in the industry for 15, 16 years, something like that. I've never had another job that is not fixing cars or related to cars or trucks or anything in that way. So currently I own a golf cart repair business. We do close to 300 repairs a month in Southern California, down to San Diego, out to Palm Springs. And then over the last, I would say 5 years, I've kind of transitioned a lot of my in-shop work to the new way that everybody wants to do it, which would be mobile repair. So I've worked for Your Mechanic. I've worked for contracted with Wrench, contracted with RepairSmith, and really, my take on the whole industry is that everything will be going mobile. And fortunately, as one of the first people to get into that, it just kind of ended up being a leader in that space and a leader in that industry, and have grown and scaled mobile operations across the country, a few different times. So, super stoked to be on the show. A lot of my basis is diesel, although a lot of my duties today are not diesel, but dig the show and dig what you're doing here.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm trying my best. Not a professional by any means, but I'm working on it. With this mobile repair, so you made a mention that that's just the way the world's going, is with mobile repair. So Can you kind of elaborate on your thoughts with that a little bit? Because I find that interesting, and I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, so I mean, as everybody knows, with the Amazon nation of everything, or the Uberization of everything, people want these repairs done, at their home. They want this convenient service. I mean, COVID definitely changed quite a bit of it. Changed the way we worked, changed the way we interact with our coworkers, with our employees, with everything. So moving forward, I mean, we started the repair business, and I'll say RepairSmith. We started previous to COVID even happening, right? It was just an idea that said, hey, we're going to provide mobile repair. And on the side of the vans, it said mobile car repair delivered, right? That's what it said. Then COVID happened, like probably 4 or 5 months after we started get going, and it was perfect because it said car repair delivered, where restaurants were just starting to get into delivering food. Dog groomers were starting to groom dogs mobile, right? Everything was going mobile, and we were already there, and really became a leader in the space. We pretty quickly scaled from, one van to now we have over 400 vans across the country performing thousands of repairs a day. One industry that I seen myself that hasn't been touched basically by anyone was golf carts. I live in a golf cart community in California, and here we have 3,000 golf carts with 2 golf cart dealers that provide service.
Jesus.
Yeah, so
Little
it's
bottom heavy.
yeah, it's totally a huge, wide open opportunity where we jumped in, bought a van, hired a tech. This was all while I was still working, and just bought some off the shelf software and started booking appointments. As we started to get booked out 2 weeks, then we bought another van, hired another technician, did it all over again, and now we have 4 vans fully in operation. We service down to San Diego, up to out to Palm Springs is a big region for us, and having quite a bit of fun doing it. In 1 year, we have well over 200 Google reviews, and the calls are
Damn.
rolling in. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. So, but it all really just based in the idea of taking your tools, put them in your van, and hitting the road and serving customers where they want to be served.
Well, and I would have never even remotely thought about golf carts until you brought it up. I mean, maybe it's because I'm from Wyoming and golfing is not of that common of a thing in Wyoming.
Yeah.
But, I never would have even thought about golf carts. And now that you say it, it's like, yeah, John Deere has, all these companies that have like lawn and turf, right? They've got the dealership support and they've got all this stuff for lawnmowers and gators and all the lawn and turf stuff. But who the fuck works on golf carts? Who the fuck even makes golf carts?
Yeah.
Like that's would have never even thought about that until you brought it up. So this whole van thing, why do you guys pick a van instead of like a service truck?
So,
I guess you don't really need a crane, do you?
No, don't need a crane. That would be a big part of it. Even when we talk about golf cart or car repair, or even say diesel repair, right? If you need an engine, you need an engine. Go to a shop.
So like if there's jobs that are too big for you guys to handle, it's similar to a service truck in the diesel side. So if the job is too big or something that can't be done in the field, send it to the shop. Okay.
Absolutely. And we have some really cool deals set up with some partner shops that are around us in each region that we operate. So as part of launching any new region, we first have to establish all of our vendors, right? So where are we going to get these parts from? What's their availability? Hey, if we do run into something that we're not capable of performing at someone's house, either one, do we have a hub where we can pull this back to and do it internally in our own hub? Or do we have a partner shop that wants to take these leads from us? So we usually set up a 15% gross cut on anything that we sub out. So if we look at a car, go out there for a misfire, determine it's got a dead hole. Hey, look, the head needs to be pulled off. We need to do this. We have an awesome partner shop. We can send you over to those guys. We'll even handle the tow for you. And it goes over to the shop. We get 15% of that total ticket. Everybody's happy. But think of it like a triage, right? That's really what we are. We get the call, hey, doesn't run. I don't know if I need to tow it. I don't need it, whatever. Most of the time, it's just batteries.
Yeah.
Most of our phone calls, most of our appointments, we get out there and it's like, well, you need a battery.
Well, these people running these golf carts and stuff are kind of like lawnmowers and, those people where their mechanically inclined skills are very, very, very limited.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that, and we ran into that in the heavy duty industry even. You get some customers that they can't tell you the first thing about it. All they know is it's not running right. And it's like, that's great. That's really not that great of information. And then you got to try to connect through JD Link and see if you can pull some remote codes from the thing if it's in an area that even gets service in Wyoming. Like, got to go through all that. And then you have the 75-year-old man that has an excavator and he's like, needs a turbo. And we're like, I trust you with that. We will bring you the turbo and help you put it on.
Yeah.
Save us a lot of time, right? Obviously, there's in between that, but I'm assuming the majority of the people you deal with are the latter.
Yeah, on the golf cart side, definitely. On the automotive side, automotive and diesel side, you get a little bit more. I mean, there's a lot more competition and there's a lot more information out there for these guys.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, hey, if you need a water pump and you're requesting a water pump, it's probably because you need one. With golf carts, we take everything with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Because nobody knows anything about golf carts, even the people that own them. So
I don't, is it like a gator? Is that pretty much what it is a gator?
yeah. In fact, a lot of our service work on the commercial side, as opposed to our retail customers, are graveyards, apartment complexes, what was the other one? Cities, right? They all have these utility vehicles that are like, the gators, the UTVs for a construction company. They might have like this, utility looking side by side, but they're all the same: single cylinder engines, drive belt, clutches, and they're very basic small engine stuff. So we see quite a bit of it, and I never thought I would really enjoy the small engine, especially as opposed to, coming from being a Cummins technician, Max technician. Man, this stuff is easy to diagnose, easy to get to a quick response on, and a lot of the times they never really need motors. They're highly reliable. So it's pretty cool stuff. Both gas and electric too, right? So we have the electric side as well. That is we're doing quite a bit of that.
Well, that's something that I've always told, even just mechanics that aren't working for themselves, they're working for other people. That's something that I've always like tried to give an advice on is, specializing in something. Right? You can make a lot more money. Like being a John Deere technician is great, right? You're specializing in John Deere. I could get a job tomorrow, sight unseen, for whatever the fuck I ask for at any John Deere dealership. But you start specializing in things like cranes or the work in paving equipment, or, even like your deal, you guys are specializing in golf carts. And if that's all you do and that's what you specialize in, you're going to have a much higher chance of being efficient and cost effective and doing it right the first time. And that's something I've always tried to tell technicians, like, try to specialize in something, because that makes you invaluable, especially on things that are not very common for people to want to work on. And I mean, yeah, maybe it's not a giant crane that you guys are working on, but I don't know anybody. I've never met anybody else who works on golf carts ever. So I'm sure like you said, you guys started up a business and it just fucking took off because there's a lot of demand and not very many people supplying it. So
yeah, we ended up getting, we'll be setting up a service visit in San Francisco. So we're down in like, San Diego area. San Francisco's, I don't know, 10 hours away from us or more. And one of the colleges up there, pretty big college, I won't say the name because I can't just yet, but they want to do lithium upgrades on all of their maintenance carts. These guys have 70 carts on site. This is close to $150,000 deal. And the reason why they called us is because we're the only mobile provider of golf cart service.
Yeah.
So crazy. Never thought any of that would happen. I mean, we started as a general repair company. So the company's name is Canyon Lake Mobile. And our first van said cars, carts, boats, diesel on the side, right? So we're just like, hey, if you call me, I'll fix it, right? Like we'll figure something out. And this is what we found. Okay, so how much would you pay for a normal diesel oil change? What do you think the cost is there?
Like per hour?
No, just like if you go into any shop and you're like, hey, I need an oil change on the diesel. Even
I mean, I've never paid for an oil change, but I'm going to go ahead and assume it's somewhere. I mean, I would take it to a dealership because I don't trust Jiffy Lube.
Sure.
Like, I don't know, $150.
Okay, awesome.
Maybe, I don't know.
All right, let's go with that, because really that's all we have to go with is what does the consumer think a fair price is?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now,
and good luck getting the hourly rates out of local shops to try and be competitive.
Exactly. So that's the other part of it. We've got a lot of other influences on what, pushing that price down, because competition drives price down.
Yeah.
So diesel oil change, let's say in your mind, you think 150 is fair. Our diesel oil change is $300. But most of our customers tell us, fuck off. I'm not paying $300 for an oil change. No problem. Guess what we get for doing it on a golf cart?
What?
$250.
Really?
They are dying to get on schedule. I mean, when can you get here? When can you come? So as we started to find these pricing models, do I do a car oil change for $150 that cost me $60?
Yeah.
Not including the tech that I have to pay, or do I just change 1 quart of oil and 1 little filter on a golf cart for $250?
Yep.
Crazy, right? So that was for us probably about 4 or 5 months into starting this, saying, you know what, we need to go with what pays us the most, and
That's
that
smart.
way I can hone down, our technician training. I'm not having a tech that needs to work on a boat, needs to work on an RV, needs to work on a car, all this stuff. Most of our technicians are automotive based because I can't pull from golf cart technicians, right? So if I had a guy that say he worked on golf carts for the last 20 years, probably has half his teeth, probably has a drug problem, right? Like, I don't know. We have no idea. But if I take a professional automotive guy and I bring him in, it is so much easier to take your knowledge base down and say, look, golf carts are very simple. We've got an engine, we've got a starter, we've got a belt, we've got a drive system, we've got very simple things. And I would say comfortably it takes us, and I've done this, I don't know, probably about 12 times now. It takes about a week to 2 weeks to get a technician comfortable enough to be on their own in their own van. And, we're still there for support. We're still there for, hey, I'm looking at this. I can't figure this out. Where do I test? Or I'm like, all right, take your multimeter, test at this point, test at this point. So now we have like these, we actually have a team that actually is capable of working together, figuring out any problem. And so that's really helped, definitely honing down what we actually work on, has helped with technician recruiting, the success of each repair. Because when you're doing 200, 300 repairs a month, if 20% goes wrong, your whole business is failing. I mean, you really need to get down to like 5 to 10% or less of issue vehicles, to be able to run smoothly and things like that. So,
well, that's what some people don't understand. I've gotten the comments all the time about, why don't you start your own business? Why don't you get your own service truck? Why don't you do this and do that? I'm like, there is so much more to that than just buying a service truck and going out on repairs. Like, you fuck up an engine. I mean, not saying I've ever fucked up an engine, but by chance, something, bad shit happens. You fuck up an engine on one of these fucking pieces of equipment, that's $55,000 to $75,000. And, you got to have insurance for that, right? Or that's something that you're going to have to cover yourself. And it's really, there's so much more to, my boyfriend's mentioned a couple times, like, why don't you just open your own shop? And it's like, I fucking wish, but I don't want to have to deal with the liability of customers yet. I just don't have the means to do that yet. So what I'm trying to do is get into buying engines and rebuilding them and then reselling them, or buying a truck, rebuilding it and then selling it. Unfortunately, that means I have to kind of steer away from the heavy equipment, which is where my passion is, but it's still, people don't understand, like, an engine for one of these things literally costs more than your car.
Yeah.
So it's, the insurance and the liability, just like you said, sometimes between overhead costs and your technician, hourly wage and stuff like that, and tooling and all that stuff, it's you got to have your numbers down. You got to be efficient, or numbers start not really looking that great.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah,
It's for anyone that's out there, and you know, to anybody watching this as well that's been thinking about like doing mobile. Um, I want to encourage that you do it. Like you should absolutely try it because we've all done side jobs, right? I remember me being as a tech, of course, not making enough, pulling in side jobs, friends, family, stuff like that. I mean, imagine doing that full time. So you definitely need to have a kitted out truck that's ready to go. You don't want to be rolling up in a Honda Civic with a tool bag in the back, right? It's just, especially if you take
professionalism.
this stuff seriously, right?
Yeah.
The mobile repair industry has a connotation to low quality or low budget work, right?
Yeah.
And
Unless it's associated with the dealership.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. Then you're looking at a different thing where maybe people see it as a premium at this point.
Yeah. Well, $235 an hour or something.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's in Colorado, Wyoming. I don't even want to fucking know what you're in California, what your guys' field repair for a dealership is.
Yeah, no, it's across the board. It's all pretty high. But yeah, we're you keep that in mind as you open a mobile business, as you start to do this, you know, yourself, you really gotta say, do I want to be paid well, or do I want to keep giving people deals, right? Because if
Yeah.
you go out there, you're gonna take your expertise, your experience, and apply it to this vehicle. It should come at a premium. And you know, which is probably an interesting topic we should talk about is the diag fee. Do you give a credit towards the repair? You know, my thought is, why should we take our most important skill, the
Yep.
one that worked the
That's
hardest,
the hardest one to have.
give it for free, right?
Yeah.
Like, why do we
Yeah,
do
fuck
that?
that. No, that seems
The
stupid.
the industry continues to do this, and the only thing that we can do is, you know, for us, we have a policy, right? Our diagnostic fee is $250. If you move forward with the repair, we'll take 125 of that and put it towards your repair, but only if the repair is over $300.
Which makes sense. You know,
So
you don't want to, like you said, diagnostics, anybody can be a parts changer.
yeah,
You know, anybody can get a fucking manual and go step by step and change parts on something. But the diagnostics is what really makes a technician valuable, is being able to diagnose things and diagnose it properly. And I've always thought the same thing about the diagnostic fees, because, you know, at the dealership that I worked at, we had a minimum of 1 hour that you would be charged for diagnostics. 2, if it was an electrical issue. And if you went over that, well, the customer got charged for that for the most part, because but it's, these machines have 40 fucking controllers, right? Like, how you can't put a time limit. Some of this shit you gotta go into DTAC and go into the fucking computer programs and ask the fucking engineers for help.
Yeah.
And half the time the engineers are okay. DTAC loves to use the DTAC, which stands for Dealer Technical Assistance. They love to put new engineers into DTAC before they become actual engineers. Every now and then, though, you know, that's kind of a recipe for disaster, because then they just end up reading you the same fucking manual that you're looking at. And it's like, no, that's not what I fucking need. I can read the manual. I can understand the manual. I need more. Okay. I've been working on this thing for 2 days. Give me something else.
Yeah.
Every now and then, though, you'll get like an old mechanic or an older engineer that was just tired of shit. So then he just went back to DTAC to help people. Now, those motherfuckers are helpful. But still, you know, all of this time and this effort and this resources are worth something. And technicians, you know, we are constantly learning. We have a lot of shit going on that we have to learn and figure out. And I've always been an advocator for, you know, you're not paying just for my time to diagnose this and repair this. You're also paying for the 7 years I've spent in this industry learning how to do this right. Because as we all know, you don't start out as a rock star, regardless of what anybody else tells you. People that start out in this industry fresh off the fucking trade school bus are not rock stars like they think they are, right? All of us fuck shit up for like the first year at least, right?
I know.
So you're paying for that experience and that training and those certifications that we took the time to get. And that is valuable, because why shouldn't it be valuable? That's something that you have to actually put the years and the time into getting. You can't just like go online and spend 20 minutes skipping through a test and be a master mechanic. So
absolutely. Yeah, that's the whole piece of it. I mean, on the technical assistant side, we've noticed, so I used to run a IC bus dealer, so international school buses. We had 3 shops in California, one in Sacramento, one in LA, and one in San Diego. So between that, I probably had 35 technicians between the 3 dealers. But I can say, and for anyone who's experienced before, the IC or international side, their technical support is pretty good. It's a bunch of old grouchy technicians, but dang, they know their stuff. And I think they're all based out of Naperville, Chicago, or Illinois. And I met a lot of those guys there. They know their stuff. They're very, very good. Unfortunately, we don't have any resources for golf carts, so we're kind of stuck to Google and the manufacturers and things like that. But it's all the same stuff. It's, you just try to do the best that you can with what you got. And fortunately, a lot of the schematics are public, and so we can get into basically anything there. But it's cool. Very, very, very cool.
So something that we wanted to cover is dealing with the technician side of it. So you came from being a technician into running the business. So obviously how most technicians are, because you've been a technician, right? We can be hard to please. We can be hard to deal with. We want the right safety gear. We want the nice jack stands. We want the nice shop. We want good tools. How has your mindset changed, I guess, if it has, from being a technician working for somebody else into now your role is reversed and you are on the management side of it?
Well, I try to keep humble and really put myself back in those shoes, because when you make the transition, even when your first management role, so that could even be something as easy as like a foreman, like a service manager, then a service director and things like that. But, definitely depending on where you're at in that, me right now, I'm more of like a director level, but if you remember what it's like to work in the cold, to work under a truck on the ground, probably on gravel, like, you have to keep that stuff in mind, because if you lose touch with that and you lose the trust of your technicians, they'll stab you in the back sooner than anyone else will, right? Sooner than your worst enemies. I as a leadership style, I try to take in, quite a bit of feedback from, our services, our vans. Hey, is this working out for you? Hey, on the next van, should we build in this, right? Things like that to make it easier, because while I was a dealership technician, I was never a mobile dealership technician. And so as we went into mobile, I've probably done, I would say 1,500, 2,000 mobile appointments myself. And so that kind of helped me do it a little bit, but I very quickly got out of the van and into managing the schedule and things like that. But yeah, that's it, right? Like, as a manager, your role is to earn trust, right? Managers work for technicians. It's not the other way around. It can be the other way around, especially when you have a tech who's had repeated, issues and you're having trouble getting them to buy into what you're doing. And I fired many of technicians, but I always say we hire for character and we train for skill.
Yeah.
Because if you got the right guy on board, I don't care if you don't know how to diagnose this. Call me. I can help you
Well, you
through it.
can't teach work ethic, right?
No,
You know,
not at all.
I've
And
watched in many shops, I've watched that exact thing where you've got the kid that fucks everything up that he touches, but he's still got the job because he shows up early every day. He goes home late every day and he tries, right? He's not on his phone. He's not fucking off. But then you've got the mechanic that thinks he's too good for everything and he's declining jobs. It's personal experience from somebody I know personally, declining jobs because they're too good for that. That's not their job. This isn't their job, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, they're such a good mechanic, but it's wasted because well, I won't touch a crane. I'm not, that's not my job. I didn't sign up to be a crane mechanic. It's like, bro, you're working for Hunt Equipment. We are a Grove crane dealership, along with Deere, along with Working.
Yeah.
Get with the fucking program.
Yeah.
And, I'm not going to name who this is, but this person was a very good mechanic. They were very good at what they did. But they pissed off a lot of bosses because they thought they were too good for it. And, I went back to the shop. Honda Equipment, we kind of, if one shop was slow, we would send mechanics to other shops to help out, which honestly, I didn't mind too bad. I had horses and stuff at home that I had to make sure were taken care of, but for the most part, I didn't really mind it. And I showed up at one of the shops locations, which I'd worked at a couple of times, and the boss there's great. He's laid back. He's great, great guy. I'd work for him in a heartbeat. He actually tried to get me to transfer to his location before I moved to Indiana. But I showed up and they needed a transmission pulled out of a crane. It was already diagnosed, but they needed the transmission pulled out. And this is a job that like nobody in the company has pulled a transmission on a crane. Cranes are something that we're a dealership for and we've worked on a lot, but there's definitely a lot of jobs that people haven't done yet because it's cranes. It's not like we have 40 of them in the yard like we do John Deere equipment. And, he's like, well, you're just gonna have to figure it out. He's like, cause whatever. I'm like, he's like, I don't really care if you make time, just get it out. And I'm like, I got this. I can do that. So did I make time? Absolutely not. Did it take me forever? Yes, but I got it out. And he looked at me and he's like, you can come back here and work anytime you want. I will always have you at this shop and you will always be welcome because, you always are willing to do whatever job I give you. You don't care if it's Deere, if it's cranes, if it's some random dude's axle out of his pickup truck, because that's just how those shops kept open, right? Is when it was slow, we took work from everybody.
Yeah.
And he's like, you just don't care. You're willing to work on anything and you have a good attitude about it. And that's worth a lot more than a mechanic that's, a little bit better than you. They've got more experience than you, but they're shitty to work with. Their attitude's shitty. And that made me feel really good because I'm like, I know this mechanic and this other mechanic's a really good mechanic, but, I had no idea that he was pissing people off like this. I had no idea until I actually started talking to people. I'm like, I don't want to be that mechanic because, I do have a little bit of, I'm a little bit of a dominant personality. And if I feel like a boss is being not a leader, right? And sometimes I don't always get along with some bosses. I've had a couple. For the most part, every single boss I've ever worked for, I've gotten along for the most part. And the very, very select few bosses I've worked with over the years that I didn't get along with were like the kind of bosses that I had one when I first started working in one of the shops that was brand new when it opened. And he was a good mechanic before he was a foreman. And he is fucking smart. My God, was he anal. Like, I mopped my floor. I'm not a clean mechanic. As we have all seen, my bays usually look like a tornado went through. But this guy, he's like, this is a brand new shop. We need to treat it as such. I'm like, okay, fine. So I had an axle out of this grader, which is not a clean job in the first fucking place. Right? You got dirt and dust and grease and oil leaks that have been there for 20 years and like all this other shit on the floor. I had that axle out. I put it in the other bay and I swept and mopped that entire bay and picked up all my tools and put them away. This motherfucker has the audacity to come out and he found one bolt laying on the floor, one bolt. And he fucking chewed my ass for it because it was like literally 5 minutes until clocking out. And I was sitting at my computer and he's like, why the fuck are you sitting on your computer when there's a fucking bolt on the floor? I'm like, bro, I just spent fucking 45 minutes cleaning to make it like, I mopped my bay. Okay. For me, you should be proud, right? It's bosses like that, like, you know, they got to prove something.
Yeah.
Right. They got to prove that they're the boss. It's like, dude, I already know you're a good mechanic and I have respect for you. You don't have to do this shit.
Yeah.
But now you're losing my respect.
You know, I find it in a lot of middle managers, right? So, you know, you have someone in my position with our own company, right? I'm the owner. I have a service manager who's in the middle of that. And, you know, a lot of the times, especially if it's the wrong person, that middle manager can be very like, oh, I'm going to go above and beyond and be dicks to these guys because I want to be a good manager. But let me remind everybody that being a good manager has very little to do with managing people, right? Like it's, you are earning the trust of your team, as with any baseball team, football team, shoot, even live golf teams, right? So you have to earn that trust. And you know, it's not always, I don't care if the manager's not a great mechanic. As long as they make sure that my parts are there on time, they make sure that I'm not dealing with dumb things and they don't throw me under the bus, right? If they got my back and make sure I have everything that I need, I'm going to be a high producer for them no matter what. And that's, you know, that's what I try to set up for our technicians is, you know, I'm not going to send you to something that you're not prepared for, or at least, you know, I'm going to field all these calls and say, hey, look, all right, kind of sounds like, you know, all right, it may not be this technician I want to send there. It may be this technician just because of the symptom and, you know, he's seen this a little more. So and it's hard work to do that, right? It's really hard to know your technicians and adapt your business to fit the team that you have. I was in the Marine Corps for 8 years. And a lot of my leadership style is not necessarily based in the knife hand part of the Marine Corps, but more based in know your team and look out for their welfare. And if a technician trusts you and trusts that you have their best interests, they'll kill for you. I mean, you
well,
can
if you have a positive attitude, right? You know, positive attitudes go a long way. It's you know, I completely agree with that. And you made a comment that I want to touch on earlier. You said, you know, mechanics don't work for management. Management works for mechanics. And, you know, all the bosses that I've always got along with were actually a majority of them were always like that, right? They're like, here's what you need to do. Here's what I need you to do, you know, and if it was a job that they thought was over my head, for the time, or like they're like, you know, I'm not really sure. They just approached it and be like, hey, I know this is a big job for you. I understand that you're probably not going to get this done in time. I don't care. Just take your time, go slow, and try to do it right. And you know, I worked at a shop that I was the only shop mechanic.
Okay.
And you know, we had me as a shop mechanic, and then we had 2 field mechanics. And so it was a small shop, it was a startup. And when the current boss decided he wanted to quit, because it's a small shop, everybody has a lot of roles, right? So I helped check in machines in and out of the yard. So I was a mechanic, I was a yard dog, and I was also fill-in boss for whenever my boss wanted to take a vacation or he didn't feel like answering the phone, which I get it, right? Like sometimes the phone's just ringing nonstop and he just wants to be out fixing something. I understood, right? We kind of worked as a team. And so when he quit, the like regional manager was like, hey, you can run the shop while we're trying to hire somebody else. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. There was a conflict of interest with one of the other mechanics there that was actually my ex-boyfriend, but he was not my ex-boyfriend at the time. So I could not actually be hired for the position. But they're like, hey, if you want to run the shop for now, you know, that's great. And he actually vouched for me and tried to get the owner to just hire me anyways.
Yeah.
But, didn't happen, which I understand. But I ran that shop for probably 3 months, and I learned rapidly. I was like, coming fresh off the fucking plate from being a mechanic right into that leadership role, you really are working for your mechanics. You are making sure the parts guys are getting their shit done on time. You are being the middleman in between pissed off customers. You're scheduling them. And scheduling was something that the previous manager was okay at, but it wasn't great. He was pushing them way too hard. We really didn't have the workload to be working field mechanics 15 hours a day. We didn't have the workload for that.
Oh, wow.
So, I kind of slowed it down a little bit. And as you know, in Wyoming, or you might not know, but in Wyoming, everything is at least an hour away.
Okay.
Everything. Everything. So if it was a job that was not in Cheyenne, Wyoming itself, I scheduled one field call a day. That would give them time to drive there, especially if the roads are shitty, drive there, look at the machine, figure out what they need, and then come back. And a lot of times that's an all-day thing, and I've seen bosses, not that particular boss, but I've seen bosses try to schedule 3 field calls in one day. And one of them's an hour and a half north of Cheyenne. And the next one is an hour and a half west. It's like, by the time the technician gets there, looks at it, comes back, does the job in Cheyenne that you wanted him to do, and then goes all the way out west, they're going to be home at like 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
And that's not going to keep a field mechanic happy very long. And These people are invaluable to us. But that was another thing that, I learned is I knew the mechanics that worked there. Obviously, there was only 2 or 3 field mechanics, but I knew them pretty well and I knew what their skill sets were. So if it was a very in-depth, hard job that needed somebody that was really good, I knew who to send. And if it was a little bit easier job, maybe,
Sure.
I had it figured out on who I wanted to send to what. There were certain customers that would specifically request one of the field mechanics that we had. So, I've always tried to, but that's something I did want to cover in this episode, was the management side, because I haven't really covered that very in depth. And I really, really wanted to hear your take on coming from a mechanic's standpoint into management, because as there are great managers that were never mechanics, but, having the experience in the field and remembering, like you said, remembering what it's like to be the mechanic, you're at the mercy of your manager for scheduling and jobs and what you're doing. And it is important to have that, kind of remembrance of where you came from and understand, what would I do in this situation if this was done to me and I was still a mechanic? Like, obviously sometimes you got to suck it up and just do the job, whether you want to or not, because you're a fucking mechanic.
Yeah.
But, I've always believed that management makes or breaks a shop.
Yeah.
I've always believed that is all it takes is one bad manager to lose your entire team.
That is correct.
Because once you have one mechanic leave, the rest will follow.
If my service manager watches this, thank you, Josh. Couldn't do it without you, buddy. Because that is true. I mean, we had one key player basically in any role. Like, and of course, if something happened, there would be a solution. But if, without that key player really looking out for those things and managing your techs how you'd want them to, like, it's even harder for me because now I trust that management is being done well. And I do, by the way, Josh. But yeah, that's a hard part of it as well. I mean, for our Amazon side of things, I think 4 or 5 different managers, right? And they're all different. Some I don't necessarily agree with the way that they do it, but the only thing that you could do is as that director level, go into your middle manager and saying, like, hey, give them feedback on this stuff, because a lot of the foremen, they're just thrown into this job.
Yeah.
You're a great tech. You should lead mechanics. And then they get the foreman and they're terrible. So you take your best technician You promote him to be a manager and you don't give him training. Now you've lost a good technician and you've pissed off all the others.
Yeah.
And it's super, super important. And I don't think that a lot, this is common knowledge of how to manage people. And I would suggest for anyone in that transitionary period is to read. And you don't actually have to read words. Like, you can download Audible. Okay, link in description. I know you should put that in.
You know mechanics very well, don't you?
Read. There's a lot of good books out there. Extreme Ownership is one of them. A Navy SEAL who talks about, how you execute on things, whatever. There's How to Win and Influence People. How to Win Friends and Influence People. That's a really good book. But seek knowledge, right? We seek knowledge as a mechanic on, performing tasks and things like that. But do we seek knowledge when it comes to leading and being a leader in a shop? And I would argue to say that maybe most don't. But if you're in this transitionary period, prepare yourself, educate yourself, read, do what you can, because the people that are out there killing for you depend on you to do that.
Well, they're not going to be killing for you for long if you're a shitty fucking manager.
No, they'll kill you.
Exactly. And I got lucky before I ran that shop. I got lucky that I was the fill-in boss for almost a year. So I watched Jason and I watched how he managed things, and I watched how he dealt with customers and stuff like that. And I learned the qualities that worked well for the customers and the qualities that worked well for us mechanics. And then I also learned, because he's actually a really great team player. He was actually a really good team player. There was just a couple things that were a bit on the extreme, but for the most part, he was a great team player. And I tried to learn from him the do's and don'ts of how I would run it. But the one thing you never understand is, for all the mechanics listening to this that aren't in the management side yet, what you don't understand is, all of the stuff that these managers filter away from you. There is a lot of stuff that managers deal with that mechanics do not understand or don't see. When we deal with pissed off customers or shit rolling downhill, because shit loves to roll downhill, right? Sometimes you're just at the mercy of the people above you too. And I ran into that a couple of times where one of the other shops needed a mechanic or two or whatever, needed a mechanic. And even though we were kind of short on work, the manager above me decided that our work and our jobs, after he talked to the customers, obviously, he was actually a really good manager, but he decided that our jobs and what we were doing were not as important or not as dire as the jobs that he needed a mechanic for. I'm at the mercy of that.
Yeah.
I can't just tell this guy no. I can't, I can come up to you and be like, hey, I'm sorry. Like, I don't have control over this. Somebody above me wants you in a different city right now to work on something else. I can't control that. And, a lot of the mechanics, I think as a manager, if you approach it that way and you're honest with your mechanics and you're transparent and be like, hey, I don't really want to send you either, but I don't really have a choice. I know you had this going on or that going on, but, I don't really have a choice. Instead of just being like, not transparent at all, be like, hey, you're going to do this. I don't care, what you have going on. I don't care about your life, but you're just going to go do this.
Yeah.
If you're more transparent with them and telling them like, hey, I'm sorry, I don't have control over this situation, then they're much more understanding of, like, at least they're not mad at you for a decision that you didn't even make.
Totally. Absolutely.
I don't know if that's right, but that's kind of a take that I got from it.
And don't forget to take these guys out for a beer every once in a while too.
Yeah.
Super key.
Free food goes a long way with mechanics. Burritos and donuts and pizza goes a long way. It might seem stupid, but mechanics, the way to their hearts is food. So
yeah, you can even buy a little bag of Snickers, right? Just throw them up in the break room or something like that. It all makes a big difference. And the very small things that you do as gestures are very big, right? They do make a difference. We used to just buy a rack of Red Bulls. Just go down to Costco, buy couple cases and just keep them there. Right?
Yeah.
I don't care what it's $70 in Red Bull, but what it does is, in addition to the boost of energy, gives
Yeah.
you, it also is part of that just makes you feel comfortable and at home, because you do spend more time at work than we do at homes, and
Yep.
a lot of the times, that shop becomes your family. So don't be a weird family member. Be a good, okay?
Don't be a weird family member. It's true.
Yeah. But yeah, I've enjoyed my time. Like I said, I've been in the industry for about 15, 16 years, and I would say I'm getting to the point where about half of that has been in management. So I'd probably say I've been doing it for like 7 years now, as far as a service leader, as opposed to being, the technician. The money's not always better, to be honest, or, as a mobile mechanic, you can really, in California, you can push over 100 without any issue. And if you're not making that, call me, I'll hire you. But if, in a manager, right, you're going to make 60, 70,000 a year. You may have some incentive bonus program that gets you closer to that 100, but the expectation is when you're a manager, you get a salary, and the salary is, 60 to 80,000, but your technicians are going to make more. And you shouldn't get upset about that, right?
Yeah.
You should be stoked about that. I get stoked when someone makes more than me, because if they made more than me, it means that they produced. And at the end of the day, the business was successful because of that. And that's how everything should be lined up. Your technicians should absolutely make the most. And and everyone else is there to support them. The parts teams are there to support them. The operations are there to support them. Even your sales teams, right? Your sales teams.
Oh, don't get me started in sales.
Well, and it's funny because at a dealership, especially like when we talk about a GM, a lot of times that GM is a previous sales guy, not a previous service manager, which is really how that it always ends up happening that way. But I think I understand a little bit more of it now, because at the end of the day, selling cranes makes a lot more money than fixing cranes. It does. It is what it is. I mean, it's a reason why a lot of golf cart companies end up becoming golf cart dealers as opposed to just a service business.
Yeah.
Which is just what we are, right? We don't sell golf carts. We're service golf carts. But man, if I sold a few golf carts a month, we would double what we do. It's crazy. So I've had quite a bit of fun doing it.
Well, one of the shops that I worked in, I'm trying not to name names as much, but one of the shops I've worked in, as a company, they made a point that when they hired foremen or hired store managers or whatever, they were previous mechanics. And usually previous good mechanics. And how they did this is, instead of just hiring a service manager or whatever, it was a service manager / mechanic, or it was a working foreman, as they would call it, or a working service manager.
Yeah.
And so that kind of eliminated the salary thing. Because I've also worked for another dealership that had straight salary. And it actually, I think it worked pretty well, because, all of my bosses were ex-mechanics, which obviously is sometimes good, sometimes bad. But for the most part, these people could be out there working with you, right? These bosses could be out there working with you and helping you. And they were, I've worked for plenty of service managers that were not mechanics that were great managers.
Yeah.
But I felt like, and I don't know if you'd have to ask actual managers for more in depth, but I felt like the managers that were getting paid hourly because they were working foremen and they could do, they were obviously required to clock like 10 to 15 hours a week or whatever on a job. But I felt like they were happier than just a salary. Because some of these, I had a boss at one of the other companies I worked for. Great boss. But he was salary. and he was an automotive mechanic before, but he was just salary. He wasn't allowed to touch it. God forbid you do not ask him to run a piece of machinery, because unless you want to commit suicide, that was not a great idea.
Yeah.
Great guy though, great manager, but that poor man made like $60,000 a year in salary or something like that. But he worked like 14-hour days.
Yeah.
So his hourly rate, if you did the math of what his salary was versus what it would, transform over into hourly for working 12 to 14 hours a day, he was making shit money.
Yeah.
Like horrible money. And I felt bad for him because he had a wife, he had kids, and he was actually a really good manager. So I just wanted to kind of get your take on that, because I've noticed I that's just something that I've seen or noticed or had a little bit of an opinion on. So
yeah. Well, it's an encouraged path for those that are thinking about it. I mean, being able to clock out is something that's very important for your mental space. And if you don't have a job that you're able to clock out, you better love it. So yeah. It's not for everyone, that is for sure. For anyone that's on the fence of, hey, I have an opportunity to be a foreman, cool. Just take into account that, talk to your family about it, right? Talk to your kids, talk to your wife, make sure that they understand that this workload, the responsibility is more than just what clocking in and clocking out means, because you're now responsible for other human beings living. That's a huge burden. And, I enjoy that burden, right? Like I love being able to provide that. But I'm a weird bird. So I that might be just me. Well, I could tell you my mess up story if you want to hear that.
Yeah. So we're gonna wrap this episode up a little bit, and I love to end them with, I want to hear your biggest fuck up, and then your biggest accomplishment. We're gonna even the play.
All right, very good, very good. So we'll start.
Fire away.
So I think this was my first flat rate job. So I was an automotive diesel technician, Duramax certified. I ended up later becoming Cummins certified, but this was so I did 2 years as an apprentice at a GM dealer. And then 19 years old, I went on my own, fully flat rate, ready to go. And I worked for a Chevy dealer in San Diego. And we had a Coca-Cola Chevy HHR with a little 4-cylinder engine in it. And it came in completely covered in oil and a rod sticking out of the block.
Oh, that's cool. Those are always fun.
And I was like, oh my God, what happened to this thing? Wow. Actually, no, I don't think the rod was through the block. I just think it was seized or something like that, because I ended up reusing the block. So pulled the motor out, did the whole thing. This was all under warranty, by the way. I'll go into why it shouldn't have been. So I pulled the motor out, redid all the bearings, rebuilt, basically did the whole thing, put it back in, put it all back together, drove it all the way down the road. And I'm like, sweet, this thing is ready to go. And I shipped it. 3 weeks later, it comes in covered in oil.
Oh God.
And I'm like, what?
It was a turbo, wasn't it?
No, it was stupider than that.
Oh God.
These have canister filters on them. Okay. And the canister filter had a fine crack in the top of it, where if I was paying close enough attention, I would have totally seen it.
Was this a Power Stroke?
No, it was a 4-cylinder gas engine.
Oh, you just said that. Never mind. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
So just a little hairline crack in it. And if you watched it, it would take probably about 30 seconds, but you'd start to see oil run down the block. And I missed that. For sure, I missed that. Coca-Cola did their own oil changes, and they cracked that filter. That motor should have never been under warranty. But guess who got to rebuild it for free for the second time? This guy. That was one of my, that was like a big one where it was just an oversight thing. I had another big one that was a little bit more than an oversight. This one was just like day one stuff when I was a helper. I was working for the front end guy, so he does brakes and alignments. That was their department. And I was a helper for the whole shop. So I went over there. He's like, "Hey, can you knock out brakes on this Silverado?" Yeah, boom, did front and rears. And I just left it there because all he asked me to do was do the brakes. So I did that. Ran over, helped somebody else, was doing whatever. And then he's like, "Hey, that truck, can you drop it down, get it on the alignment rack? We're going to go ahead and run the alignment." So I went back over there, I hopped in the thing, lowered it down off the lift, kicked the racks out, backed it up, and didn't pump the brakes.
Oh, Lord.
Right behind me was a engine block from our heavy line guy on an engine stand right in front of the bench. Fortunately, this bay was empty because I would have killed someone. The bay was empty, and all that was in it was an engine block. And I backed up, realized I didn't have brakes, and went straight for the engine block because it's the only way I wasn't going to hit another car or another person. So not only did I didn't total the truck, but not only I really screw up the truck, but I also ran this warranty engine block under a bench and scratched the whole top deck of it. Ooh. So the whole cost ended up being somewhere around $15,000.
Ouch.
I had a wonderful service manager at the time, and I worked my butt off for him. I was one of the kids that, like, I don't care if you don't know too much about stuff, but shoot, he'll do anything, right? Yeah. And I was one of those guys. So it was what I had done and the name that I had made for myself in that dealer that allowed me to still have a job when that happened, because he said, "Hey, look, things happen. I totally understand it." Each one of those guys, the technicians that I was a helper for, had my back as well. They said, "Hey, you know what? I get it." It was like 2 hours between when he did the brakes and when he pulled it off the rack, and he was doing a bunch of other stuff. Happens, whatever. So those are my two big ones.
I bet you never made that mistake again, though.
No, I never. No, I just
that is the only
to become a tech. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that is the only true failures and mistakes are ones you repeat twice.
Yeah, that's correct. So. Yeah, definitely pumping the brakes every time now. So, yeah, fun times.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, the last shop I worked at had a mechanic that was like 55 years old, and he claimed to be he was the lawnmower mechanic, and he claimed to be he was one of those guys that just claimed to be God's gift to the mechanic industry. And I followed up a brake job that he did on the pickup truck, on the parts truck, and the brakes, I was supposed to bleed them, and I could not get the fronts to bleed. I'm like, what the fuck? He swapped the calipers, and the bleed screws were on the bottom instead of the top.
Yeah.
Obviously, that was never going to bleed. So, yeah, and he was 55, so you're good.
Well, so then I guess if we go with biggest accomplishment, normally I would say the business that we've created, and that is definitely up there. But probably one of the things that I'm definitely most proud of is we started providing services to Amazon overnight for the company that I contract for. And I did the first, I don't know, probably 25, 30 oil changes myself. And then I hired and scaled. We now operate in 54 stations across the country, and we do about 1,500 repairs a night. Even though that wasn't my own company, I put my blood, sweat, and tears into it, and to be able to handle the largest fleet in the United States and do it well is a huge accomplishment. So my accomplishments are the accomplishments of my team. Super proud of everything that they have done. And under my guidance, I'm proud that I didn't lead them to a dark place. So everything that I have as far as where I've been, where I've come from, is really because of a lot of the folks that worked for me, and their ability to work with my crazy ass and still get everything done as I'm stoked with where we are with both of those projects. It's been a lot
That's
of fun.
good. It's cool to see the, success of people that, don't obviously are humble enough to say that, I didn't get here by myself, right? I had help, and I'm willing to give credit where credit is due. There's a lot of people that miss that. And so that's good. It means you're a good leader.
Yeah, I owe quite a bit to my wife too, so because she's been there the whole time, and oh boy.
Yeah, I'd love to have a conversation with her.
Yeah, absolutely. She feels
son of a bitch. Yeah. I've the man I'm dating right now is a very ambitious person, so I understand sometimes you got to kind of pull the reins in a little bit.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely.
But I appreciate having you on this podcast. I think we covered a lot of good things about management. That's something I was really looking forward to covering, after we spoke a little bit this morning, was about management and that side of it, and building an industry and building a shop and having a team that can coexist with each other and, work well together, and how you handle that. So I appreciate you being on here. And if you have anything else you want to add or talk about, now's the time. If not, if you want to share a website or social media or any other accounts that you want public that people can find you at if they want to get a hold of you, now's the time.
Yeah, so if you guys ever do need to get a hold of me, have questions about any of the stuff that we talked about, you can email me, tony@canyonlakemobile.com. If you have a golf cart and you are anywhere in the United States, we do sell parts, golf cart parts, on our website, at canyonlakemobile.com. In addition to, if you need technical support, we do sell our technical support nationwide. It's $125 an hour, get you on with the technician. He'll fix any golf cart problem that you have. We ask that you bring a multimeter and some basic hand tools, but we can get anything fixed out. So canyonlakemobile.com is where you can do that. Other than that, we'll see you next time.
Yep. Well, thank you. And I hope you have a good weekend.